But speaking about Tinubu, what do you think of Tinubu? Tinubu is going to be, in my opinion, let me just say this to clear
What do
my
I
chest.
think of Tinubu? What a question, Noble. What a question.
Let me say this to clear my chest, right? I think Tinubu is going to be inaugurated come May 29th. I think he will be our president. I don't think the court case that Peter B is bringing, or the PDP, I don't think it will have any effect at all. Like we were saying off air in the cafe, I think the mistake that many Obidients are making is they are mistaking the enemy who was, what's his name, Minister of Labour, Ngige.
Right.
They're mistaking Ngige for Tinubu. Yes, P2B took Ngige to court and won. That's fine. Chris Ngige is a different ball game. The enemy, Chris Ngige, was easy to defeat. You could defeat Ngige. That's state level politics. That's easy. And let's not forget, P2B was able to win Ngige because he had PDP on his side. He had the Oba family, Chris Oba and Eseloga, on his side. Oba family are known in Anambra. I'm from Anambra, so I know this very well. They are one of the godfathers in Anambra. They hold power. They held. They were quite powerful back then, right? So with the help of the Oba family, who were against Ngige, because I had a deal with Ngige that, you're gonna give us power after the stuff that goes on in Nigerian politics, right? But what happened was, with the help of the Oba family, Peter was able to win. But the mistake we're making now is, and this is why I always say, you must know the enemy. You must understand the enemy. If you're gonna win, you have to know who you're fighting against. The mistake the Brits are making is to think that Ngige is Tinubu. Tinubu is a different ballgame altogether. The level that Tinubu is at, these are different levels. So to think that Tinubu is gonna allow P2B to win, I think is maybe we don't know Nigeria. We don't know the country we are living in.
I don't think it's an issue of Tinubu allowing Peter Obi to win. Tinubu is not the judiciary.
No, you get my point. I think you understand what I'm saying. I don't mean that of course the judiciary they are there, but we all know the kind of country
yes,
that
we
Nigeria
know
is.
he has possibly has a lot of unstated influence over the judiciary. That is a fact.
Yeah,
however, as I also mentioned to you in the car on the way here, I refuse to speak about this in the past tense. So as far as I'm concerned, there's an ongoing legal process going on. The process has barely even begun.
Just 2 days ago, yesterday began.
And as I've mentioned in several places, the APC has no case. And they know they have no case, none whatsoever. I'm so confident in the fact that they have no case that if it was, if there were no possibility of them dragging this out to the 29th and then trying to get him sworn in so he can use presidential power to scatter this thing, if that wasn't a possibility, I would be confident enough to represent one of these petitioners in court as a complete legal layperson. I would win the case because the APC has no case. They have none whatsoever. However, the issue is that because there is the possibility that they will have a way to drag this thing out to May 29th, and then if this person is actually sworn in, that creates all kinds of constitutional jeopardy. Right. Personally, if I were Tinubu, I would see that the goal of being sworn in on May 29 in itself doesn't solve my problems. If I were Tinubu, I would never have run for president to start with, because I would have understood that for someone with my kind of record, Tinubu is not the first criminal to get involved in politics. Right? Criminals get involved in politics all the time, all over the world, including here in the UK. It happens. However, they're always smart enough to stay in the background. Yeah, I agree, Right? They're always the godfathers who stay in the background. They never come to the front, put their faces out there and say, Emilio Khan. They're usually not that stupid. However, Nigeria being what Nigeria is, here we are. I think that if Tinubu were a smart person, he would have understood that the sheer amount of chaos, the sheer amount of constitutional jeopardy, the sheer amount of potential, what's the term I'm looking for now? There's a particular term I'm looking for. But the problems that he would face if he's actually sworn in, despite being widely understood to be an illegitimate president who had no chance of winning the tribunal if he didn't use presidential power to try and scatter it. What that would mean is that he's not going to be able to run a government in any appreciable sense.
Why do you say so? Why?
So I was at I was at Chatham House yesterday.
Okay.
I had a private session with the head of the Sierra Leonean opposition party. Ironically enough, the Sierra Leonean opposition party is called the APC, the All People's Congress. Okay. That's what it's called in Sierra Leone.
Yeah.
So the head of the opposition, Dr. Sumara Kamara, we had a session with him yesterday at Chatham House, and there was something he said that stuck in my mind. He said that as a leader, and he made this comment in reference to the current president, Julius Maada Bio in Sierra Leone. And he said the reason Julius Maada Bio has failed as president of Sierra Leone is not necessarily because he's a bad person, or it's not necessarily because he had bad intentions of coming to office, but it's because when he came into office, he came with the mindset of discrediting his predecessor and fighting everybody. So when you come into office with the sole aim of showing everybody that it is you that has power now, and you have won. You've been trying to get this office for years, and now you have won. Now it's your turn. So everybody that came before you has to suffer. So you now leave the business of governance to start playing
revenge politics.
Yes,
and stuff,
revenge politics and games. You start probing everything probable. You start, playing all these games. That the truth is that time is going by. The country is not moving forward.
Of course,
you're wasting everybody's energy on your personal vendetta.
Yeah.
And eventually, 4 years, 5 years have passed. The country is worse off than when you took it, and then you start looking for scapegoats. So, drawing from that, what Tinubu is going to find out is if he's actually sworn in. First of all, assuming his health will even permit him to even assume that presidency, which is a very big if, right? Even assuming that is the case, he's going to realize very quickly that in order to govern a country like Nigeria, it's not enough to just have the stick in your hand that tells you that you are president and GCFR. Being the leader of Nigeria, a country as big as Nigeria, because I don't think they appreciate just how big Nigeria is. Nigeria is not Lagos. Nigeria is not the Southwest.
It's a lot.
Nigeria is a country which is so big that it cannot functionally police its own borders.
Exactly. True.
Nigeria is a country that is so big that we don't know how many Nigerians exist.
True.
We last had something approaching a census. It wasn't credible, but something like a census in 2006.
It's a long time ago.
17 years ago.
Nigeria
is a country that is so big. I think we have of all the countries in the world, including China and India, we have the third largest concentration of languages. 500 and something languages. Choked into 900 and something thousand square kilometers of land. When you want to lead a country that is that diverse, that is that contradictory, that is that divided, what you need more than anything else is broad consensus.
But right? Isn't that assuming that that's what he wants to do?
But
they don't care.
But the problem is that whether you care or you don't care. So using Buhari as an example, even though people often, and I always used to say that Buhari came and had no intention of unifying the country. He was just a bigot. But the truth is that even Buhari had some sort of broad-based appeal. In the first place, that election in 2015, Buhari actually won it. He actually won that election legitimately.
Of course he did,
He actually did. And I always use my peer group as a barometer of public opinion. And I could tell, even though I supported Jonathan in 2015, my entire peer group was openly supporting this man, whom they had nothing in common with. They had nothing in common with him religiously, ethnically, intellectually. Buhari they had like chalk and cheese, you understand? But everyone supported Buhari in 2015. Like, I think personally that they all made a mistake, but the truth is that they all supported him in 2015. So when he came in 2015, regardless of whatever intentions he had, there was at least a certain amount of goodwill that came with him. There was at least a honeymoon period that people allowed him for like 6 months. I don't criticize this guy yet. Let's see what he wants to do. Even though from like the first week, I could tell that this person is going to be a disaster.
Of course,
In the case of Tinubu, from the day before day zero, everybody already knows, first of all, you did not win that election. Right? You played whatever games you were able to play in the background, and you got them to declare you at 4 a.m. As the winner of an election that you categorically did not win. Everybody knows this, right? You even lost in Lagos, for goodness sake. Like, Lagos, which is your your crown jewel, at the place where your rigging machinery is at its strongest. The way you were beaten in Lagos was so impossible to hide that even according to your official figures that you allowed them to put out, you lost Lagos. So you cannot tell me that you won an election and come on. Everybody knows he did not win that election. So number one, there's that lack of goodwill. Because everybody knows this is an illegitimate president. You stole that result. Yeah. You did not win it. Those 8 million votes you said you did not get 8 million votes. Nobody gave you that 8 million votes, first of all. Secondly, and this is a follow-on from the first point. Yeah. That lack of goodwill means that the only other way for you to functionally be able to create a government is for there to be enough elite consensus from around the country for people to be able to at least get over their grievances and hold their noses and deal with you. You remember in the car on the way here, I mentioned Obasanjo in 2003. Yeah. That it's believed that Obasanjo did not win that election in 2003. Yeah. However, the Morris Iwu iteration of INEC at the time did what it did. Yeah. A result was announced and that was that. Regardless of whether Obasanjo won that election or not, the fact is that just by virtue of being the person that he was, Obasanjo was able to inspire enough elite consensus from around the country that even the places where they did not vote for him and they feel like he did not win the election, the elites there were still able to pacify those people and say, you know what, let's chill for another 4 years. Let's work with this guy. Tinubu does not have that skill set. Tinubu is not a diplomat. Tinubu is not a statesman. Tinubu does not. All Tinubu knows is the rules of the streets. And the rules of the streets, I would recommend anybody watching this to go watch the movie Gangs of Lagos. Because as I said when I watched it, that wasn't a movie, that was a documentary. If you want to understand Nigerian politics, watch that movie. That was a documentary. Why I call it a documentary was it outlined the sort of the psyche behind politics in Nigeria. That there is no wider thought of strategy. There's no wider desire to achieve something great. No. All of it is just mad scramble. Of course, for and money, for power. To be the last man standing exactly. Through any means necessary. So if I have to kill you, kill your family, and step on top of your head. And the only purpose of all of this is so that I can be the head nigger in charge. That's all. Nothing more than that. Right? That is exactly how Tinubu is. Right, and I always say this whenever people say, "Oh, this man is a kind of like master strategist," he has political sagacity, and I always bust out laughing because this was someone who, my dad used to work with him, so as a child, I had access to these people, right? And you hear the way they talk, you hear the things they say. These people are so fundamentally limited. Intellectually, there is no. The only reason why they are where they are is because of money and violence. Nothing more. Yeah, but the thing is, money and violence is also part of strategy. But here's the thing: it doesn't need to be good. It doesn't need to be moral. No matter how much money and violence you have from your base. I'm not saying it's good though. My point is, it's still part of strategy as well. No matter how much money and violence you have from your base in Lagos, it's not enough to conquer the whole of Nigeria. It's not enough. Buhari, as brutal as he was, did not rule Nigeria with just tyranny alone. It wasn't just violence alone or just bribing anybody. No, he still genuinely had a support base in many places. People, at least in the north, in many places, still genuinely loved him. Till now, I can tell you for a fact, if an election is held in Nigeria now and Buhari is on the ballot, Buhari will still win millions of votes till today because he actually had that organic support base. Don't you think the Europa support Tinubu then? Don't you think they No, I don't. I believe again, it boils down to money and violence. The supposed Yoruba support for Tinubu boils down to one of those two things. Either those who hilariously believe that they will be part of the chosen few, they will be part of his group, they will benefit something from him, or that someone close to him will benefit them, or the ones who basically have been sort of conditioned into thinking that somehow this is a fight against another ethnicity, and this is a fight to defend your ethnic pride, which still boils down to violence. So it's money and it's violence, and there's nothing else. There is no, this is, so the way Obafemi Awolowo inspired a following, the way I can sit, I can sit down and read a book about Obafemi Awolowo.
Yeah.
Right? If someone writes a book about Obafemi Awolowo, I will buy it and I will read it.
Yeah.
Because even though I wasn't around when he was playing his politics, but you could say that the positive effects of the things that Obafemi Awolowo did,
Yeah, of course.
I experienced them in my own life.
Of course, yeah.
So my dad, for example, the reason he got to attend primary and secondary school was because of free education in the Western region. And the reason that is so significant is that Obafemi Awolowo was a Yoruba man. He could have tried to run his premiership of the Western region as a sort of Yoruba ethnic thing. He could have done that, and Badagry, which is not a Yoruba town, could have been marginalized. He didn't do that. So my dad, who grew up in Badagry, had access to the same things that a child growing up in Surulere or in Oshogbo had. There was no... So in fact, I was telling someone earlier this month, that's part of the reason why our native language in Badagry is even dying, because most people have become acculturated into the Yoruba ethnicity. Yeah. Not because they were forced, but because, what else would you do? Like, Obafemi Awolowo just made it so easy for you to assimilate into that ethnic group using a carrot instead of a stick. So if someone gives me a book to read about Obafemi Awolowo, I will sit down and read it because I'll know there's something worth taking away from that book. If you give me a book to read about Bola Tinubu, what is there inside it that will make me read it? What is there? So the idea of Tinubu taking office and occupying the seat as president of Nigeria, every time I think about it, I can't decide whether I want to cry or want to burst out laughing. The idea is ridiculous to me. He doesn't have it in him. And in any case, even if it does happen, you can quote me on this, I don't care. Even if it does happen, the probability, because we're in March 2023 now, the probability that he makes it to December 2024, still breathing oxygen on this planet, is about 0. So, good luck to him.
That's a powerful statement there. But the thing is, when it comes to Tinubu, and we talked about this again when it comes to these guys, right? And we're talking about the last election now. I don't know if, and maybe you have more evidence and proof to this, right? I don't know if P2B, because there's a difference between saying the election was rigged. We all know the election was rigged. It's obvious. What we saw on social media, the violence, the rigging, what you saw Mr. Lomo saying, what you saw happening even in Rivers States. For APC to win Rivers, it's like saying that APC won Anambra State. It's not possible. There is no planet Earth that APC wins Rivers State. It's not possible. So it's obvious that Wike put his hand on the scale for Tinubu, for APC. Obviously, he has beef against Atiku, right? And so APC won Rivers, which there is no planet that APC can win Rivers States. PDP should have won Rivers, or even LP, we agree. But for APC, no. So I agree with you, rigging happened. But did that rigging, was it to the extent or to the point that we can say authoritatively that this election was lost by Tinubu and that the rigging was to the extent that P2B won the election and not Tinubu?
Well, yeah, and it's not just us saying it. There's actual data to prove it. So, and I'll explain what I mean by this. Now, prior to the election, what we were told, which I'm made to understand now wasn't true at all. What we were told was that there's this thing called the Beavers, and that what it does is that it accredits voters and then it uploads the result sheets, the EC8 form to the IREV server
portal,
and that the IREV, what is uploaded to the IREV server becomes the basis for the collation of results, becomes the basis for the results that are announced. And actually, that is not true at all. That actually all the Beavers does is that it accredits voters and it uploads result sheets to the IREV portal. But that what is actually used to announce the results of the election are the EC20 sheets, which are compiled at the collation center. So the only business that the IREV has with the collation center is that the total number of accredited voters on every EC8 result sheet, according to the IREV, must tally with the total number of accredited voters that is recorded on the EC20. So if you recall all those EC8 sheets we saw on social media the days after the election, where you see maybe LP had 1,000 votes, APC had 300, and then they will cancel, they remove 200.
They
remove, they'll cancel 10 from the LP 1,000, making it 100,
Yeah.
and they add 900 to the APC's 300, making it 1,200. You understand that kind of thing? The reason that was done in such a crude way was that the total number of accredited voters at the bottom doesn't change. So no matter how much TPEX and obvious
irregularities,
obvious, what's the word I'm looking for?
Mago irregularities.
Lord, I can't believe I like English of all things. I mean, I have a degree in English. This shouldn't be this hard. But all the edits that have been made on that paper, and it's very obvious, regardless of all of that. The collation officer, the only thing that he's interested in is the number at the bottom, accredited voters. So if you like, you can write total LP, SEMO, APC, EBA. It doesn't matter. As long as total number of accredited voters at the bottom tallies with that on his EC20, he'll record it as a result. Whatever it is that is given to him, he'll record as a result. In other words, the election obviously was won by the LP at the polling units, but at the collation centers,
which is where it matters.
That is where all this mago, as you put it, happened. Now, the reason that is such a big point is that what a lot of us thought, including me, because that's the impression INEC gave us, which was a lie. The impression we were given was that middleman risk at the collation center had been cut out using the Beavers. That this thing called electronic transmission of results means that when results goes to the INEC server, that it's from there that is tabulated. No. The results that go on the IREV are not what is tabulated into the result that is announced. So basically, that's how you see on the IREV portal, for example, it shows very clearly that Peter Obi won River State, the LP won River State. However, according to INEC's official announcement, APC won River State. So the question is then, what happens when INEC's own data, which is on its IREV, contradicts the results INEC announces? And the answer is go to court. So what I can see from all of this was that some of us, including me, even made a mistake in the lead up to the elections, because we maybe didn't scrutinize that Electoral Amendment Act enough. Maybe because people came out and made definite statements that electronic transmission will do X, Y, Z. So maybe we didn't really sit down and think that these people are so devious, and these people are so determined to rig this election, and they are so determined that our votes must not count, that they will still find a way to sneak in something somewhere.
But I don't think we are even wrong, because the thing about Nigeria is, in Nigeria, the law, we have obviously the constitution, we have the law is the law, but in Nigeria it's not really the same. In applying the law is something else, and we all know that. So, like, to back you up, the INEC chairman went to Chatham House, said what he said, and we all believed him.
And he was lying.
That was what the law said.
He was lying.
Yeah, of course he was lying, but the law said what he was saying. He was saying that everything was going to go the way he said. Beavers, IREV, collation, everything properly done. You could see on your phone what's going on. That night, the portal wasn't even working that night of the election. Nothing could be seen. So it's obvious that in Nigeria, the law is just an ass. People don't pay. Yes, the law might say A, but when it comes to application, anybody does what they want to do, because you have power, because you have money. And that is why I believe that the law might say what it says, and it's obvious that PTOB, could have won based on what you said. But I don't see how Tinubu, who we all know is very ruthless, the people backing him, they are very ruthless. These people don't care about morality. They don't care about what you and I think, our love for Nigeria, what millions of young people want to say. They don't care. All they care about is money and power. And so I don't believe that those guys who are gonna sit back and say, you know what, let's just let P2B ride rush. Let's just let him win. No, it's not possible. I've come to study the enemy. I've come to read. I've come to understand. I've come to see that these guys are not just gonna let you just win. And going back to the point of strategy, this is why I believe that these guys are very good when it comes to strategy, because I don't think we young people are good at that.
Right.
They've planned this whole thing from the get-go. Yes, the law may say what the law says, but we all know that when it comes to the day of the election, if they share money, if they kill some people, things will go the way they want it to happen.
Right.
So for us to think that, I think it's a bit naive for people to hold out hope. Yes, you could hope that P2B could win in courts, but I think it's a bit naive to hope that something is going to happen. Something could
So-
happen, of course.
so-
This is life. Something could happen. P2B could still win.
I don't think this is about hope per se.
Okay.
But as I said,
Yeah.
there's a legal process ongoing. Until that process is completed, I refuse to speak
Yeah.
about the election in past tense.